Hello hoopers! So for this video I'm just going to talk about hula hoops very briefly and what sorts there are and what you kind of need for what. So the first hoop I'm going to talk about is this one. The tubing is pretty thick on this one and it's about 35 in diameter. Now this will be really good for keeping it around your waist and kind of maybe doing some of it on body stuff. But it's not going to be very good for progressing, so it's going to kind of have a little bit of a shelf life. So this is good to start with, but you want to be moving off this as soon as possible onto something a little bit thinner, I would say. This hoop is also a beginner's hoop, but it is made of standard tubing, so it's not super thick. It's around a 35 in diameter as well, which is pretty good for most people, but obviously the hoop needs to be proportional to the person using it. This is good for a beginner, this is good for all your on-body stuff, and you can do some off-body stuff as well, like lassos and vortexes, but eventually you'll be downscaling onto something a little different. Which brings us to this, Polypro. It's not called Polypro for nothing, because this is what you want to use when you go pro. It's much lighter and much more responsive than one of the big, heavy hoops. Now, I would recommend for your first Polypro, probably going for something that's around a 34, but remember they need to be proportionate to your body. I tend to use a 32 because I like to use my 32s for everything if I'm doing splits or anything that is off body as well. So I think having to change hoops between what you're doing looks a bit sloppy. Now, another thing to keep in mind with the size of your hoop is when you come to doing tricks such as wedges, if you've got something that is gigantic, you are not going to be able to stand on top of it or kick it if it's in front of you. So that is something that you really need to think about. I'm 5'4" and this is a 32. Last but not least, we've got like a PE hoop, okay? Now these are like your kids' hoops that you get. They're made of like pretty low quality plastic. I mean, you can use them for things like isolations and rolls and lassos, but really, they're not going to be much use to you. And especially if you're going to be doing stuff that's on body, this is going to be a nightmare. So, unless you're a child, my humble advice is do not buy one of these.